Okay, what is Pythagorean theorem, first of all? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay? In order to use Pythagorean theorem, you need a right triangle, and you need two sides of the triangle. Okay? You're asked to find the dotted line, alright? Be sure you do have the picture drawn. That's the biggest thing with this problem, is that you have the picture. Okay? So I'm looking for the length of the dotted line. But notice that with both of these triangles, I've only got one piece. So I need to figure out a second piece. Notice that with this bottom triangle, I've got two pieces, so I can figure out the third using Pythagorean theorem. This missing piece, is it a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse. So what letter does that correspond with? C. Good. Okay, so A and B can be 9 and 7, doesn't matter, just as long as they're not C. So 9 squared plus 7 squared equals C squared. Alright, what is 9 squared? 81 plus 7 squared? 49 equals C squared. What is 81 plus 49? 130. And then how do I get C all over? Square root. Okay, square root. And remember that with these problems, we're just going to leave it as the square root of 130, which if you don't remember why, we'll see why in just a second. Okay, if you decided to reduce it, I actually don't think it reduces, but if you decide to reduce it, that's okay. But we're just going to leave it like that for now. Okay? So this piece now is square root of 130. Okay? This is a rectangle up here. We haven't talked about rectangles, but we know that opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent. So that means this side is going to be 9, and this side is going to be 130. Now I've got two sides of a triangle. I can figure out the dotted line. Dotted line, leg or hypotenuse? Yeah, it's a hypotenuse. So once again, I'm looking for C. So I can say 9 squared plus square root of 130 squared equals C squared. Okay, 9 squared we said was 81. What happens here when I square a square root? Yeah, it would be 130, okay? Your wording just wasn't. Yes, okay, it would be 130. What's happening here is square and square root are opposites of each other. So they simply just cancel each other out, and I'm left with 130. So you're correct. I just wanted you to clarify your wording. Good. Okay, so when you square a square root, it simply just cancels out. You're left with 130. That's why I wanted to leave it as square root of 130. Because if you simplify it, then it's a little harder to see that. Okay, and that equals C squared. What is 81 plus 130? 81 plus 130? 211. And then once again, to get C all alone, I square root both sides. And I'm asked to round to the nearest tenth. How many decimal places is that? 1. So when I put that in my calculator, C is approximately 14.5. Very good. Simply just put square root of 211 in your calculator. If it gives you a square root, hit those arrows right above enter. It'll convert it to a decimal. You get 14.5. So anytime you see those complicated pictures, just know Pythagorean theorem twice. Alright. Once you're good there, you may put it away and take out today's notes. Alright, so today we are talking about something called special right triangles. Okay? So there are two special types of right triangles. The first one is 45-45-90 triangle. The second one is 30-60-90 triangle. And all those numbers mean are just the measures of the angles inside the triangle. So if I look at the 45-45-90, I've got the 90-degree angle. It's got to be a right angle. And then my other two angles are 45 degrees. Okay? In a 45-45-90 triangle, the legs are congruent to each other. Okay, the legs, it's labeled in your picture on your notes, but it's really hard to see, so I would prefer if you relabel it. Okay, your legs you're going to label as S. S for side. It could be X, it could be P, it doesn't matter. We're just going to go with S for side. So both of your legs are equal to each other. They're both equal to S. Okay, your hypotenuse for a 45, 45, 90 triangle is equal to S times the square root of 2. S times the square root of 2 is your hypotenuse for a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Alright, so what you need to know for a 45, 45, 90, the legs are congruent to each other, they're equal to S. The hypotenuse, I think that's pretty flat too. The hypotenuse is S times the square root of 2. Alright, for a 30, 60, 90 triangle, gets a little more complicated. Okay? So in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the shortest side of the triangle is labeled S. Okay? And we need to figure out how we can always determine the shortest side, not just based on the picture. And remember we talked about on Thursday that, for example, like the longest side is across from the longest side is across from the largest angle, right? We talked about that on Thursday. The opposite is also true, okay? The shortest side is across from the smallest angle. Okay, so the smallest angle in a 30, 60, 90 is 30 degrees. Name the side for me that's going to be the smallest. What's the name of the side that's going to be the smallest? CB. Okay, it's across from the smallest angle, 30 degrees. Okay, so that smallest side, the side that is across from 30 degrees, is going to be labeled S. The smallest side, which is always across from the smallest angle, is going to be S. The other leg, so the leg across from the 60-degree angle, is going to be S times the square root of 3. So the other leg, the leg across from the 60-degree angle, is going to be S times the square root of 3. And then your hypotenuse is 2 times S. Okay? You need to know these pictures. Okay? You need to be able to look at a 45, 45, 90 or a 30, 60, 90 triangle and be able to say what's S, what's 2S, what's S times the square root of 2, so on and so forth. Okay? You need to know. For your quiz smart, you need to know. Okay? So to recap, for a 45, 45, 90, the legs are congruent to each other, we'll label them as S. The hypotenuse is S times the square root of 2. For a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the shortest leg, which is across from the 30-degree angle, is always S. The leg across from 60 degrees, so your longer leg, is S times the square root of 3, and your hypotenuse is 2S. Okay? You need to know those for your quiz tomorrow, and for your test, obviously. Okay? Alright, let's practice just some labeling, so we're going to label the missing sides. Okay? First question is going to be very obvious, so please don't get it wrong. Number 1, is it a 45, 45, 90 triangle or a 30, 60, 90 triangle?
45, 45, 90.
Good, good. 45, 45, 90, yes. Okay, I'm given that one of the sides is 7. Where that 7 is it a leg or a hypotenuse? It's a leg. Okay? Go back and look at your picture. For a leg, how do I label it? S. So this is saying that S is 7. Okay? Which other side is also going to be 7? XZ. XZ. The one across from the other 45. Yes. So this is also going to be 7. Because that's my other leg. My legs and my 45, 45, 90 are congruent to each other. Okay? My hypotenuse for a 45, 45, 90 is what? S times the square root of 2. Well, S is 7, so my answer is 7 times the square root of 2. That's it. So S is 7, 7 times the square root of 2. I can't do anything with that. That's my answer. All right. One thing I'll say about this lesson, first of all, you got to go back and look at the picture. You got to know it. Second of all, if you have questions, please stop me and ask, because it can be confusing, especially if you're not looking at the picture. Okay. All right, number 2. Once again, obvious question, 45, 45, 90 or 30, 60, 90? 30, 60, 90. Okay. I'm given one of the sides. First of all, that's 6. Is it a leg or a hypotenuse? The leg. Okay. So now I need to ask myself, is that leg S or S times the square root of 3? So, before we just... Okay. Take your breakfast. Okay. What angle is that 6 across from? 30. So that means that that 6 is on the shortest leg. If you go back and look at your picture, what did we label the leg that's across from 30 degrees? S. So 6 is S. Okay? Name the other side that is S times the square root of 3. PQ. Good. The other leg, PQ. So that is S times the square root of 3. S is 6. 6 times the square root of 3. You're going to leave it just like that. All right, and then my hypotenuse for a 30, 60, 90 is what? 2S. S is 6. What's 2 times 6? 12. Say 13. What'd you say? 6 squared. Oh. Okay, so your hypotenuse is 12. 2 times 6, where S is 6. Okay? Alright, with those around you, I would like you to try 3 and 4. Go back and look at your picture. Okay, go back and look at your picture. You're doing 3 and 4.
This part is only 7 problems.
We'll do a few extra problems at the end. Look, it gets a little more challenging, but it's still not too bad. Give us
3 problems is fine.
It's 10.
What are you looking at? What are you looking at? I don't know. Just what you say. You should. Okay. It's okay. Does that symbolize? No. Oh my god. Okay, that's the thing, not. Okay, actually, that's 18. Okay, so because that's. Yeah, shut up. No. Wait, what's she got there? That's what it is. She never mind. Brady. Where did you go with that Brady thing? He posted something like that. What did he say? I don't know. I was looking right here. He said you should find somebody right here. How cute.
Later. Put it away. Later. Alright. Let me have your attention, please. Talk math. Talk that later. Okay. For this third triangle, I'm given a 30, 60, 90. And I'm given that this leg is 9 times the square root of 3. What do I label that as? S or S squared of 3?
S squared of 3.
S squared of 3, okay? It's across from the 60-degree angle. Okay? One thing I'll go ahead and tell you, listen, this is important. Just because it has a square root of 3 does not mean it's S squared of 3. Okay? It's S squared of 3 because it's across from the 60-degree angle. You'll see in just a little bit that you may have a leg that, or your hypotenuse may have a square root of 3 with it. But it's the hypotenuse, so it can't be S squared of 3. Okay, so just because it has a square root of 3 does not mean it's S squared of 3. In this case it is, but it's really because it's across from that 60-degree angle. Okay? Which side is going to be labeled S? UV. Okay. What is S?
9.
9. Okay. S times the square root of 3. That means S is 9. And then your hypotenuse is 2S. 2 times 9 is? 18. Good. Go back and look at your picture. 30, 60, 90, the hypotenuse is 2S. Okay. Alright, and then for number 4, that 12 square root of 2, how am I going to label it? X square root of 2. Okay, once again, I'll emphasize. Just because it has a square root of 2 with it does not mean it's X square root of 2. This 12 square root of 2 could have been a leg. But that wouldn't mean it's S square root of 2. Okay? What are my legs labeled as for 45, 45, 90? S. They're both S. So if X square root of 2 is 12 square root of 2, what does that make S? Just 12. Good. Just 12. Alright, before we move on, make things a little more complicated. Are there any questions? You've got to look at the picture. You've got to know your picture. Okay? Alright, let's keep going then. Alright, I'm once again asked to find the missing sides. Okay, so this first picture is a 30, 60, 90, and I'm given that this side is 28. Okay, first of all, is it a leg or a hypotenuse? A leg. Okay, which angle is it across from? Which is what? 60 degrees. Okay, go back and look at your picture. How do you label the side that's across from 60 degrees? S squared root of 3. Okay? S squared root of 3. Go back and look at your picture. The angle, or the side that is across from the 60 degrees, is always S times the square root of 3. Okay, so this is a perfect example of, even though there's no square root of 3 you see, that side is still S squared root of 3 because it's across from the 60 degree angle. Okay? Name the side that's going to be S. BC, good. And then the hypotenuse is going to be what? Hold on. In your picture, what would it be? What's your hypotenuse for 30, 60, 90? 2S, that's what I was looking for, 2S. 2S. Okay, so I know what S squared root of 3 is, but I don't know what S is. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. This is an equation, right? 28 equals S squared root of 3. Okay, go ahead and write that out. 28 is S squared root of 3. Alright? What is the operation happening here between S and square root of 3? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. What's currently happening? S square root of 3. Multiplication. S times square root of 3. Okay? I want S. So how do I get S all by itself? Divide by square root of 3. Okay, gotta take square root with it. So divide both sides by the square root of 3. This is where your calculator is going to come in handy. 28 divided by the square root of 3. You're going to get a nasty fraction. Leave it as a fraction. I need to make sure everyone can do that. 28 divided by the square root of 3. Almost. Say it again.
28 square root of 3 over 3.
There you go. There you go. You should get this. 28 square root of 3 divided by 3. If you do not get that, I need to know. Okay. I figured by the way you were wording it, that's probably what you got. You didn't get it?
No, I didn't get it.
28 divided by the square root of 3. S equals that mess. You're probably not sure. You're not. Second, so hit green button and then next square. 28. Oh, okay. 28 divided by second.
The second button does the green stuff.
And then 3.
The green stuff.
There you go. Yeah, you're gonna need one. You can't just, I don't know why you can't do it.
So when you press the
Okay, did everyone get this?
oh,
Alright, so that is S. Okay, now I need 2S. Okay, so you're going to take that thing you just got and multiply by 2. You don't have to type all that out again. Just simply hit the multiplication. It'll say A and S, that means your answer, and multiply it by 2. And once again, you're going to get a nasty fraction. Yep. Take this, y'all gotta listen. Take this, multiply it by 2. So simply just go ahead and hit the multiplication sign. You don't have to type all that out again. Hit multiply by 2. And you should get 56 square root of 3 over 3. So that is 2s. Okay? I never want it as a decimal. I want you to leave it as that. Which is why you need one of these. Okay? Your phone's not going to help you. There, we all good on that first one. Set it up like an equation, get S by itself. Okay.
You have to put the 2 as equals.
Not necessarily, you could just put that. As long as it's labeled on the right side. If you're just simply writing it out, I would need to see 2S equals. But the purpose is that you label it in the right place. So if all you had was this right here, you're good. As long as it's on the hypotenuse. Alright, let's do number 2. Okay, 45, 45, 90. Alright? Y'all put your phones away, please. Stick with me for just a little longer. Alright, am I given a leg or a hypotenuse? Hypotenuse, okay? How do I label the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90? S times the square root of 2, good. Okay, so S times the square root of 2 is 14. So again, another example of where you don't see the square root of 2, but that still is S times the square root of 2 because it's the hypotenuse. Okay, so just like we did in the last one, I need to figure out S. Okay, remember for 45, 45, 90, your legs are both S. So just like I did with the last one, S times the square root of 2 is 14. I need to figure out S. So what do I need to do? Get S by itself.
divide by square.
Good, divide by square root of 2. And this answer, I believe, comes out cleaner.
Yes.
Yes. So 14 divided by the square root of 2. And what do you get?
7 times the square root of 2.
Good, 7 times the square root of 2. So both of your legs, since they're both S, are 7 times the square root of 2. Good. All good? Alright, let's do number 3. Alright, I'm given that this side is 18. Alright, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Sometimes it'll only tell you 60 and 90, which obviously means that this other angle has got to be 30. Okay, you can write that in if you have to, or if you want to, you don't have to. Okay? Just know it's not 45, 45, 90. Alright, I'm given 18. 18, is that a leg or hypotenuse? hypotenuse. How do I label the hypotenuse of a 30, 60, 90? 2s. 2s. Okay? Name the side for me that's going to be S. ED. Good. The one that's across from the 30 degrees. So that's going to be S, and X is going to be S squared of 3. Okay? I need to find S. So just like we did it previously, I know that 18 is 2S. So what does that make S? 18 is 2S. 9. Good. Divide both sides by 2. So S is 9. So what does that mean S squared of 3 is going to be? 9 squared of 3. Just plug in S. Exactly. 9 squared of 3. Very good. Alright. Clearly you probably noticed by this point that that's all the problems I have. Okay? We haven't done this in a while, but I would just want to see where you're at. I feel like we went through that pretty quickly. So everyone, can we close your eyes? Close your eyes. Just close your eyes. Everyone. Thumbs up if you feel good. Thumb to the side if you feel so-so. Thumb down if you feel bad. Be honest. Everyone's eyes are closed so no one can see. Thank you. Put your thumbs down. You can figure out something. Thank you for your honesty. Okay. Here's what I want to do since we have a ton of time left. I have a few extra problems in here that I would like to work through with you. That way you can see every scenario. Okay? We'll go through, I have 4. Okay, we'll go through 2 of them. If you feel really good after that, I'll let you start your homework. It's on paper. It's 10 problems. Okay? If we're still not feeling that great, we'll do the other 2 problems. Okay? Does that sound like a plan? Alright, because we've got a ton of time. Okay, so flip to the back for me and draw this picture. I just want to give you every scenario, okay? So flip to the back for me and draw this picture. And once you've got it drawn, just kind of look up here. That way I know you're good to go. Alright, so this is a 30, 60, 90, right? Okay? Obviously that means this angle has got to be 60. Okay, you can write that in if you need to, you don't have to. Alright, I've given that this side is 10 times the square root of 3 over 3. Is that a leg or a hypotenuse? Leg. Right? Is it going to be S or S squared of 3? Look at the picture if you're not sure. What angle is it across from? 30. So it's S. It's across from the 30-degree angle. So this is a perfect example of just because there's a square root of 3 involved does not mean it's S squared of 3. It's across from the 30-degree angle, which means it's the shorter leg, which means it's S. Okay? That's why you got to know your picture. And just because there's a square root of 3 involved does not mean it's S squared of 3. Okay? It's across from the 30-degree angle. Okay? X or Y is going to be X or Y, which one's going to be S squared of 3? Y. And then what's X going to be? 2S. Hypotenuse. 2S. Okay? So, I need to figure out what S squared of 3 is. Okay? What's that saying is S times the square root of 3. So I need to take all of S, which is this mess, 10 square root of 3 over 3, and multiply that thing by the square root of 3. Okay? Let me show you how to do that in your calculator. Okay? I think the easiest thing to do to avoid typing in your fraction wrong is to first type in your numerator. Okay? So type in 10 times the square root of 3. Just that. Don't worry about the denominator right now. Just the numerator. 10 times the square root of 3. Okay? After you've done that, divide it by 3. Your denominator. And you should now have this. So type in your numerator, 10 times the square root of 3 and divide it by 3, you should now have this. Yes? Okay, after that, now that you have that, you can multiply it by the square root of 3. And you should get a really pretty answer. Okay? This whole mess times the square root of 3 is 10. Okay, now I need 2s. Okay, 2s is not 20. Okay, because 10 is s times the square root of 3. I need to take s, which was this mess, and multiply it by 2. Okay, so instead of typing all of that out again, as long as you haven't cleared your screen yet, you can scroll back up to where the 10, where that fraction was. That way it's highlighted. And then you can hit enter, and it'll bring it back down. That way you don't have to go type it all again. So I need 2s. So I need to take 2 and multiply it by that whole thing. Or you can say this multiplied by 2. It doesn't matter. The order. Multiplication is multiplication. And for that, you should get 20 square root of 3 over 3. So that'll be 2s. Alright. So this is a really good example of just because there's a square root of 3 involved does not mean that side is s square root of 3. Okay? You've got to look at what angle is across from. Alright? Let's do one more and then we'll see where you're at. Okay? Draw this one. Alright. 45, 45, 90, right? That 4 square root of 6. Leg or hypotenuse? Leg. How do I label the legs of a 45, 45, 90? S. Which other side, x or y, is s?
Y.
Y. So y is also 4 square root of 6. Legs of a 45, 45, 90 are equal to each other. Okay? How do I label the hypotenuse of a 45, 45, 90? S times square root of 2. I'm glad y'all are going back and looking. Okay? Last class, they were just shouting out things, and none of them were right. Go back and look at your picture while you have it. Okay? So, I need to take s, which is 4 times the square root of 6, and multiply it by the square root of 2. Okay? I want you to type it in exactly like that, parentheses and all. So you're going to open a parentheses. You're going to type in 4 times the square root of 6. What I want you to make sure of before you close your parentheses, you can't be under the square root anymore. So you've got to hit the right arrow to get out of it. And you cannot be under the square root. And then when you close your parentheses, then you can multiply it by the square root of 2. So you cannot close your parentheses inside the square root. You've got to be outside the square root, otherwise it's going to give you an error. So 4 square root of 6 times 2 is what?
8 square root of 3.
8 square root of 3. If you did not get that, I need to know. So you got your hypotenuse, 8 square root of 3. Alright, here's what we can do from here. I've got 2 more extra problems we can do. We can work them out together. Or I can go ahead and give you your homework if you feel good. Homework?
Homework.
Okay, how about here's what I do, okay? I'll go ahead and give you the homework, and I've got 2 more problems. If you want to listen, you can listen, okay? I don't care if you work on your homework with others, but you got to stay quiet while I'm working out these last 2 problems, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and give you your homework, and then I'll work out those last 2 problems for you. Okay, while I'm passing them out, go ahead and draw that picture. Okay, if you're listening, go ahead and draw that picture. If you're not, quietly start your homework. Yes. Okay, just show of hands who's listening, like following along with me, that way I know. Okay, then I need y'all to be the ones speaking up, okay? Because the ones that are working on their homework are obviously not listening to me, okay? This is your time to ask questions and ask clarification, okay? Go ahead and draw that picture. Alright, this is a 30, 60, 90, yes? Bailey's out. When Brady wants to go after that, then you may go, yes. Alright, so 30, 60, 90. Okay, this is going to be 30, because that's the only other one left. You don't have to label it, but I would recommend it. Okay, I'm given 4. Is that a leg or a hypotenuse, first of all? Hypotenuse. Okay, 30, 60, 90. The hypotenuse of the 30, 60, 90 is what? 2s. Okay, before we figure out what s is, let's label the other parts of the triangle. Which side, m or n, is going to be s? N, you're right, n. Okay? S is whatever's across from the 30-degree angle. Okay, so that's n. Very good. Okay, that's n. That's s. And then that means the other leg is s squared of 3. Okay? So if 4 is 2s, what's s? 2. Divide both sides by 2. So s is 2. So that means the other side, m, 2 times the square root of 3. There's nothing else I can do with that. That's it. Do what? Yeah, Bailey.
You said across.
Opposite. Okay? It can't be right next to it. So, like, this side is the only one that isn't formed by the angle. So it's got to be the one that's not formed by the angle. Other questions? All right, draw this last one for me. All right, 45, 45, 90, yes? Okay. This 2 square root of 2 I'm given. Leg or hypotenuse?
Okay.
Leg. How do I label the legs of a 45, 45, 90? S. Okay, so just because it has a square root of 2 does not mean it's s squared root of 2. That's what I was talking about earlier. It's a leg, so it's s. My other leg is also s. Legs of a 45, 45, 90 are congruent. And then my hypotenuse is s squared root of 2. Alright, so that means my other leg is 2 squared root of 2 because it's going to be congruent. And then for my hypotenuse, I need to take s, which is 2 square root of 2, and multiply it by the square root of 2. So once again, that's where you got to be careful with your parentheses. You need to open a parentheses, type 2 square root of 2, close the parentheses outside the square root, and then multiply by the square root of 2. Julia? Because this is s times the square root of 2. That's what I'm trying to figure out. The operation happening here is multiplication. Is it 4? I don't remember. Okay, 4. Good. Okay, if you don't get 4, though, let me know. Yeah, that would be right. Okay, what's happening with all of these is the calculator is doing a process called rationalizing. You'll learn more about rationalizing in Algebra 2, but I'm not really going to fight with it because the calculator can do it for you. But the calculators that you'll use in Algebra 2 don't do it. So in Algebra 2, you'll learn how to do it by hand. But we're not going to worry about that because our calculators can do it. Okay. Does that help a little? Okay. Y'all go ahead and start your homework now. If you have questions, let me know. One thing I want to show you real quick, you should finish your homework. No questions asked. But if for some reason you don't, I have a link on Schoology that'll take you to this page, and it'll solve the radical situation for you. So if I want to do like one we just did, I can type in 2 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, and if I hit go and scroll all the way down, it'll give you the answer. Okay, but you have the calculators right now, use them. This is only if you don't have one of these calculators at home, but you should finish the homework, no questions asked. Okay, you can move around and work with others, I don't care. Just be sure you know what you're doing and ask questions. Once you're finished, if you were out last week, I would recommend watching that video because we're quizzing on it tomorrow. Okay, and then if for some reason you didn't finish your homework from Thursday, Friday, you could work on it. It's on Delta Math, okay? But you've got plenty of time. Use your time wisely. Ask questions if you need.